Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're going to dive into a topic that is sensitive but absolutely necessary to talk about. Why do some men with Narcissistic Personality Disorder, or NPD, particularly target Asian women? You might have heard stories before. Older men who suddenly pursue much younger women, especially from Southeast Asian countries like Thailand or the Philippines. At first, it may look like romance or generosity. They promise love, stability, and even a better life abroad. But behind the curtain, many women find themselves trapped in emotional and financial manipulation. Now, before we go further, I want to make 3 things very clear. First, not all cross-cultural or international relationships are problematic. Many are genuine, loving, and mutually respectful. Second, NPD is a clinical diagnosis, not just a casual insult for someone who is selfish. Not every self-centered person is dangerous, but people with true NPD can be. And third, our goal here is not to blame women, nor to stigmatize entire groups of men. Instead, it's to understand the structural risks, the psychological, cultural, and economic forces that make Asian women particularly vulnerable to NPD manipulation. So in this video, we're going to unpack what NPD really is and how it shows up in relationships, why Asian women are disproportionately targeted, real-world examples from countries like Thailand and the Philippines, and most importantly, practical strategies to recognize, prevent, and safely exit these harmful relationships. Let's get started. Before we dive deeper, we need to understand what exactly is NPD. NPD stands for Narcissistic Personality Disorder, according to the DSM-5. It is a long-term personality pattern, not just an occasional behavior. It's not about someone liking selfies or being a little arrogant. It's about a consistent pattern that affects relationships, work, and self-identity. The core traits of NPD include 3 main things: a grandiose sense of self-importance. They see themselves as superior, unique, and entitled to special treatment. A constant need for admiration, praise, and attention are like oxygen for them. Without it, they feel insecure and unstable. A lack of empathy. They struggle or even refuse to recognize or care about the feelings of others. Now, in intimate relationships, these traits often show up in a toxic cycle known as Idealization Devaluation Discard. In the idealization phase, they shower you with affection, compliments, and promises of a perfect future. They may move too fast, talking about marriage within weeks, buying gifts, or saying you're their soulmate. It feels intoxicating, but soon comes the devaluation phase. Suddenly, the same person who once adored you begins to criticize, control, and belittle you. They might say things like, "You're not good enough," or "Without me, you'd have nothing." They chip away at your confidence until you start to doubt yourself. And finally, the discard phase. When they no longer feel you're useful in boosting their ego, they can turn cold overnight or even abandon you completely, sometimes moving on to their next target without remorse. Research suggests that about 1–2% of the population has NPD. That may sound small, but the damage they cause in relationships is immense. For their partners, it can feel like psychological warfare, leaving scars that take years to heal. Now that we understand NPD, the question is, why do they so often target Asian women? There are 4 main reasons: psychological needs, cultural stereotypes, economic gaps, and immigration dynamics. 1. Psychological needs. NPD men desperately need what psychologists call narcissistic supply. This means admiration, dependence, and proof of their power. Young Asian women, who are often stereotyped as gentle or submissive, become easy to idealize. To the narcissist, the woman isn't a person with her own identity. She is a mirror reflecting back his youth, charm, and importance. He doesn't love her for who she is. He loves the image of himself that he sees through her. 2. Cultural stereotypes. For centuries, Western culture has portrayed Asian women through the lens of Orientalism: submissive, exotic, hypersexual, and compliant. Movies, advertising, and even political history have reinforced these myths. To the narcissist, these stereotypes create a ready-made excuse. Asian women will obey me. They'll admire me. They won't challenge me. This fits perfectly with his need for dominance and control. 3. Economic gaps. In countries like Thailand and the Philippines, economic inequality is a daily reality. Many families struggle financially, and some see marriage to a foreign man as a pathway to a better life. NPD men exploit this. They use wealth and promises as bargaining chips, creating dependence. To them, it's not a marriage, it's a transaction, money and status in exchange for obedience. 4. Immigration and legal dynamics. In international marriages, the woman often depends on the man for visas, residency, or financial stability. If she resists or leaves, she risks losing her legal status. This dependency gives the NPD enormous leverage. It's not love, it's control disguised as romance. Put all of this together, and you see why Asian women are more vulnerable. Psychological manipulation, cultural myths, economic disparity, and immigration dependence all combine into a perfect storm. But let me be clear, this is not about blaming women. The problem is not in them, it is in the structures and in the manipulative tactics of NPD men. Let's zoom in more closely on the economic and cultural aspects. From economic reality aspect, the income gap between developed countries and parts of Southeast Asia is stark. For example, the average income in the US can be 5 times higher than in the Philippines or Thailand. For women under financial pressure, the idea of marrying someone who promises stability and opportunity sounds like a dream come true. Sometimes families even encourage it as a family investment. But for NPD men, this becomes the perfect weapon. They say, if you stay with me, your life will change. Your family will live better. But what seems generous is actually a trap. The unspoken exchange is submission for survival. Once dependence is established, the power balance is broken. From cultural reality point of view, in many Asian cultures, women are taught to be patient, to sacrifice for family, to obey. From childhood, they may hear phrases like, "A good woman endures," or "Keep the peace, don't fight back." NPD men exploit this cultural mindset. They frame obedience as love and resistance as betrayal. They may say, "If you really love me, you wouldn't question me." Over time, this psychological pressure silences women and erodes their self-worth. From media stereotypes aspect, Hollywood and Western media have long promoted the image of the obedient Asian woman who exists to satisfy her Western partner. These stereotypes don't just affect how men view women, they affect how women see themselves, normalizing the expectation of compliance. For an NPD man, this stereotype is a ready-made fantasy. The woman who won't challenge him, who validates his ego at all costs. Together, these factors, economic dependency, cultural obedience, and media myths, form a dangerous cocktail. When combined with NPD psychology, they create conditions where control becomes easy and escape becomes hard. NPD relationships almost always follow the same destructive script. Idealization Devaluation Discard. Idealization. At first, The narcissist seems perfect. He showers you with attention, promises, and gifts. He says, "You're my soulmate. I've never met anyone like you." He may propose marriage within weeks. It feels intoxicating, like a fairy tale. For example, a Western man meets a young woman in Thailand. Within days, he takes her to fancy restaurants, buys jewelry, and says, "I'll take you abroad. I'll change your life." She believes she's found a rescuer. Devaluation. But soon, the cracks appear. He starts criticizing her clothes, her accent, her family. He says, "You're nothing without me. Without me, you'd still be poor." He may control money, restrict her movements, or isolate her from friends. What seemed like romance turns into dominance. Fear replaces love. Discard. When she no longer boosts his ego, or when she questions him, he may grow cold, or even abandon her completely. He moves on quickly to the next young woman, leaving his partner heartbroken, financially trapped, or stranded in a foreign country. This cycle is not a mistake. It's a strategy. For the NPD, the partner is not a human being, but a supply source. Once the supply runs dry, they throw it away. Now, let's take a closer look at two real-world contexts, Thailand and the Philippines. Thailand, with its booming tourism industry, millions of foreigners visit every year. For NPD men, Thailand becomes a hunting ground. They use tourist status to approach young women, offering gifts, trips, or the promise of marriage abroad. Many women see these men as opportunities to escape financial hardship, but often the promises never materialize. A man may say, "I'll take you to Europe." 2 years later, she realizes it was all manipulation. Philippines. Here, overseas work and migration are common survival strategies. Families sometimes encourage daughters to marry foreigners, seeing it as a pathway to financial stability. NPD men know this. They present themselves as saviors, promising money and visas. But once the relationship begins, they control everything: money, documents, freedom. A Filipino woman who quits her job to follow such a man may find herself isolated, unable to speak the language, and trapped by dependency. The risks are higher in these countries because of three things: economic disparity. Women may see foreign men as opportunities for upward mobility. Cultural obedience, norms of patience, and sacrifice make women more vulnerable to control. Legal dependence, visas, and residency often depend on the husband, creating enormous power imbalance. These are not women's faults. They are structural vulnerabilities that NPD men exploit ruthlessly. So what can women do? The good news is there are strategies. Let's talk about three key areas: recognize, prevent, escape. First, recognize the signs. The relationship moves too fast. Grand promises within weeks. Money, visas, or status are used as bargaining chips. Criticism replaces affection, and control replaces care. Isolation, cutting you off from friends and family. If you see two or more of these signs, be cautious. Second, prevent. Slow down. A healthy relationship doesn't need speed to prove sincerity. Keep financial independence where possible. Don't hand over all documents or savings. Build a local support system: friends, women's groups, NGOs. Get everything important in writing: promises, agreements, financial commitments. Final stage: escape. Safety first. Secure documents, money, and an emergency contact. Quietly record evidence: messages, bank transfers, threats. Reach out to local NGOs, shelters, or legal aid. Many have cross-border resources and translators. Leave step by step, emotional, financial, and legal separation. And most importantly, don't blame yourself. NPD manipulation is calculated and powerful. Falling into their trap is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of how skilled they are at deception. What matters is the courage to seek help and rebuild. Let's wrap this up. Today we explored what NPD is and how it harms relationships, why Asian women are disproportionately targeted, case studies from Thailand and the Philippines, and practical steps to recognize, prevent, and escape these relationships. The big picture is this: true love is not control. It is not manipulation. It is not a transaction. True love is built on respect, equality, and honesty. If you are in such a situation, remember, this is not your fault. NPD traps are subtle and powerful, but you are not alone. There are friends, organizations, and resources ready to help. The first step is recognizing the problem, and the second is reaching out. If this video has given you clarity or strength, please share it. You never know, your one click might save someone else from a lifetime of pain. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.